All right, let's go ahead and get started. And first off, before we get started, want to thank everyone for coming here. Thank everyone for being a customer of Challies. I'm excited to talk about a lot of things that we've learned over the past several months on digital marketing, as well as just kind of the off-premise platform, different digital tactics that we've seen a lot of our customers use and have a lot of success with, as well as give a quick update on some products and some new stuff that Chally's come out with and that we're working on today. And then I'm also joined by a Chally customer from Righteous Q, some legendary barbecue down in Georgia. Patrick. Patrick, you want to just do a quick intro for yourself, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, again, my name's Patrick Berzone. I own a place called Righteous Q. We're in Marietta, Georgia, which is northwest of Atlanta. I am a single location operator. And yeah, I've been using Chally now since February and the marketing side of it, and it's been great.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. So to kick it off, we just want to do a quick overview. We're going to be talking about digital and off-premise, with really the focus on how we're going to increase sales and increase profitability. What good is sales if you're not actually making some money off of it? So before we do that, we want to lay some groundwork. So typically what I like to do is just kind of talk about the overall tech stack. There are tons of different technology providers that are in each of y'all's restaurants. But a simple way that we found to kind of think about is to think about tech in three categories. The first one is just the off-premise platform. So anything that's going on outside of your four walls, whether that's digital marketing, that stuff with reviews and ratings, paid ads, anything for first party ordering, third party ordering, your website, anything where your customers are touching something that's occurring outside of the four walls, we're going to kind of group into this, category of off-premise platforms. So some companies, this is what Chally does. Companies like Olo, Owner Chow Now, all these companies kind of operate within that category. Now, you may have some technology providers in there. You might have none. You might have 10. You might have one. But we're really just thinking about it from a categorical perspective. The next one is the point of sale system. So basically thinking about anything inside the four walls, everything that's going to process payments, the KDS. This is anything that your kitchen and your staff are using to actually execute, on the orders to actually get food out the door. So anything around the customer data or table management kiosk, everything inside of the four walls. And everyone here is familiar with a lot of the different point of sale systems. And the third category we have is the kind of the back office, everything that you're using to actually measure the business, everything from food purchasing on the supply chain side to recipe, accounting, staffing and scheduling. And we've got, think of this like Restaurant 365 is in this category, Margin Edge, 7 Shifts, Buyer's Edge platform, all of them are kind of in this. So when we think about these different tech stack categories, we try to just simplify things by putting them into one of these three. Now, we've got a workbook that we've kind of provided as part of the webinar. And one time we've just found it really helpful to actually take a few seconds, take 30 seconds, kind of run through the list and think about how many technology providers you actually have. So I'm actually going to not talk, be quiet for about 30 seconds and just allow everyone to kind of review that PDF, kind of review that workbook and think about how many different technology providers they have today. I know I promised I wouldn't talk. By Patrick, while they're filling it out, do you know how many technology providers you have?
I think I figured out the other day I have 12. So
12.
I use Chally. Spot On is my point of sale. Margin Edge is who I use for back office. Margin Edge is kind of my non-negotiable. And so a lot of the tech that I have is based on things that are going to be just really be able to integrate with Margin Edge. And so part of my selection of some stuff is that as well. I also use 7 Shifts because again that integrates. A couple of the other ones that don't are Guru Club and I think that's it. Now I think about it. That is it.
I 12's pretty good. We were at Patrick, you were there with me at a show. I think there was 80 restaurant operators, and I think almost a third of them had over 20 tech that they could think of and that they could outline. So sounds like
Yeah.
you've actually done a good job of consolidating. So whole point of that exercise is really just to think about like how many technology providers we actually have to help run these restaurants. So the next one that we want to talk about is the digital storefront. All the fastest growing brands that we talk to, whether it be Dave's Hot Chicken or Halal Guys or Wow Bao or any of these groups, they all put as much thought, as many resources, as much care into their digital storefronts as their physical storefronts. They are thinking exactly about how each of their customers are interacting with their restaurants digitally. When we think about digital storefronts, we kind of think about, there's different doors into your storefront, right? So like Google is the biggest door, right? This is going to be 70% of your reviews. It's going to be 70%, of kind of like referral traffic to get to your website. But we also think of Yelp, TripAdvisor, and a lot of other ones kind of along that. And one thing that we always talk about is to make sure each of those doors are always open. So making sure that you're updating hours, making sure that the information's up to date on all these different places. At the end of the day, by doing this, this helps create more demand for your restaurant. So I have a giant disclaimer before we go any further. A giant disclaimer. We're going to talk about a lot of the digital marketing tactics and a lot of things that are going to drive more traffic. None of that works if the operations aren't ready, right? If the staff isn't fully trained, if the food isn't quite there yet, like if you're still working through things, like no amount of marketing is going to fix bad operations. So we always talk to restaurants, like make sure the operations are there first before you're spending any funds on marketing. Otherwise you're just throwing good money after bad. So we have another kind of a quick exercise here in that same PDF. There's basically a list of digital storefronts. So just thinking about, are you managing these places? Are you available on these places? And we'll take another 30 seconds for, everyone on the call to kind of run through those and think about, who's managing that, if it's being managed, or if it's something that maybe you should look into. All right. Next kind of piece of groundwork that we want to lay. A lot of times we get asked by restaurants, well, what am I supposed to post about, whether it be on organic social ads or whatever. And a lot of times we work with restaurants on something called the hospitality moment. Right? Every great restaurant brand has one, maybe two of these, and it's how customers connect. Right? At the end of the day, most customers can really only remember one thing. And so when they're talking about your restaurant to their friends, they're typically going to mention one thing about it. Like, oh, this is the place where, they have really great it's a fast food place that has great hospitality. Chick-fil-A, they say my pleasure instead of you're welcome, right? That's a very memorable moment. There's a group of restaurants called Chiba Hut. All the sandwiches have like, weed slang as the sandwich names. Plenty of restaurants, their moment is just being able to hang out or talk to the owner. Ike sandwiches, they give you a lollipop with every sandwich that they sell because the owner, Ike, has a bald head, right? It could be a signature item. It could be that you imported pizza ovens, all the way from Napoli to create Neapolitan style pizza. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it needs to be something that's memorable. Sometimes it can be Instagrammable, but it's something that consumer can remember and that they can take with them. And it serves as the basis for your social posts, right? For your content. All of those things can be about, you can talk about this millions and millions of times. You can always talk about this. It's always relevant. And so we talk a lot about kind of the hospitality moment for a lot of restaurants as we're trying to start building the foundational work for them to increase their digital marketing and to eventually increase orders. So another 30-second break for everyone to just kind of think about, what is your hospitality moment? Do you have one? Do you maybe have four? Or you can just take the time and start maybe brainstorming some different ideas on what it could be. So again, probably give another 20 seconds on this for everyone to kind of think about, what their hospitality moment is. Patrick, you've had some experience with the hospitality moment, right?
We have. I think some of mine are mixed with some of the ones that you gave. But I think I was encouraged to be able to sit down and really think about the customer journey. Like, what are they really going through when they're looking for your product or whatever you're serving? And so, like, you've got to hit those. And so, there's upwards to about 13 probably touch points online specifically. And so, an example is just going to be if Sterling says, "Hey, I know this great restaurant. You need to go there." Typically I'm going to go to Google, like, what is their rating? I'm going to look at some of the reviews, and then I'm going to be able to click on, the company's website. Like, do they have good pictures that are on there, and that makes it look appetizing? And so then they're going to probably go be like, hey, do we need to make a reservation? So that's another touch point. And so within that, we were able to kind of say, hey, like, one of our signature items is a soul saver, to kind of go with that righteous Q piece. And so, it was one of those things that we were able to capitalize on, and it was an easy thing to be able to then put into social media and to be able to push, again. So when it comes to the awareness piece, they're not just thinking about just the name; they're also thinking about that signature item.
Soul Saver is such a great name. I definitely know some mornings when I feel like I need that.
I don't. It's not really for breakfast, but
Awesome. All right. So with that, we've kind of laid the groundwork. We've talked about kind of the tech stack. We've talked about kind of the importance of the digital storefront. And we've talked about the hospitality moment that we can end up using for content. So now we're actually going to get into the how and how we've seen restaurants generate more orders. All right. And so this all comes and starts with kind of the 3 C's framework. It's the ability to create demand, it's the ability to capture that demand, and then being able to convert it. Each step of these, when they're working together, is when we've seen some of the largest increases in total sales at our customers. You're probably already doing a lot of the things in here, but it's just a matter of making sure each one is being worked on and each one's kind of working in concert with the other. So we're going to start with creating demand. So within creating demand, we focus on the 3 A's. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan of the three in the framework. But when we think about creating demand, we're thinking about creating awareness, acquisition, and attribution. The way that I like to think about these is awareness, basically like people are searching for pizza and then they find your restaurant. Whereas acquisition, when you're a little bit further down the stage, in kind of the next stage, when people want pizza, they're already searching for your restaurant. And then the last stage is attribution, when you can actually optimize paid ads to capture more intent and move that and turn that into orders and move that traffic to your site. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of each one of these and kind of, an easy way to kind of look at that. So one of the ways that we measure kind of which stage a restaurant is in is actually by looking at Google Ads. So we are big proponents of buying the branded keyword for your restaurant. A lot of marketing agencies will say, don't do that. People are already searching for your restaurant. And so you shouldn't be paying for those clicks. But the reality is you're not really paying for the clicks. You're paying for the data and you're paying for the learnings. Because when you buy your keyword, you don't just get the clicks. Google also gives you a lot more data on how people are finding you and what they're searching for. And not only can you use that to measure which stage of this process you're in, but you can also use it to help advance to the next stage. So I'm going to go through these pictures on the right side, and they go top to bottom. This top restaurant is in the awareness stage. We're still working on awareness with them. They're a new customer of Charlie's. And the thing to notice here is that the name of the restaurant is O'Toole's Restaurant. But you'll notice that the top 5 results that people end up clicking on them, no one's searching for O'Toole's. They're searching for restaurants, they're searching for brunch, for bars, new bars in New York. That's how they're getting found. And so for them, we need to work on awareness of that top level before we can start working on acquisition, and definitely before we can do attribution, which means they are not a good candidate to be doing a bunch of ad spend right now to try to drive more traffic. Now, the second screenshot that we have here, the name of this restaurant is Salt and Vine. This restaurant we have in the acquisition stage. And you can tell because in the top 5 of the what searches end up at their restaurant, Salt and Vine Restaurant is in that top 5. And not only are they in the top 5, but they're also have a very high click-through rate. Typically, you want to see this at least 40%, and you want to try to get above 50%. The fact that they're almost at 60 is outstanding. And you can see that we're still working on acquiring some of these other words so that we can end up looking like this third screenshot. And it's very clear if I were to ask everybody, all right, what restaurant is this? It's Tito's Burritos. Tito's Burritos has all 5. They are ready for attribution. They have built plenty of awareness. They've acquired the terms. When people want burritos in this area, they are searching for Tito's. And that's a great spot to be. Now, every single one of these has to be done at a per location level, not at a per brand level. We have a 34 location group. Most of their locations are in Dallas, and their Dallas locations, they all look like Tito's. But they've got 3 locations in Houston, and those ones look like O'Toole's. And so it's much more impactful, and it's much more exact. You have to look at it at a per location level, because in the digital space, it's a hyper local knife fight. And so you're competing over a certain amount of geo. Now you might have a higher tourist, driven traffic. So you're probably never going to look like Tito's. Like if you're on the Vegas Strip, for example, where it's just new people every single day. But depending on the area, this is kind of what we strive to do. The cool thing about Tito's is that it's only a 3 location group. Like they're not a national chain, even though their research results or their metric results would actually look like that. It's just a great job they've done on the awareness side. So moving kind of down the stack into the digital storefront side, we're big on listings. So making sure, like I talked about earlier, that you're open, so that whether they discover you through Yelp or TripAdvisor or Google, the hours are up to date, the menu's up to date, reviews are responded to. All of those things are rewarded by these platforms and will get your restaurant in front of more diners. Specifically, Google, they reward restaurants that just have more data, and they reward them with more views. So every incremental piece of data that you add to your Google My Business profile is going to increase the likelihood that you show up when a consumer is searching for food in your area. And these can be little things, right? It's not just hours, not just pictures, not just menus. Those are all important, but it's also, are you dog friendly? Do you have a patio, right? Like, do you use the Q&A? Have you tagged or connected your Instagram and Facebook accounts to your Google My Business profile? Do you have promos? Are you using ad section? The more data that's attached to it, the more Google is going to surface that to customers. Because Google's thinking is that if a customer has a question, what is going to most likely give them the answer? They take the same approach that they do to websites as they do to literal businesses. And Patrick, I think you've had some good experience with driving more traffic through Google with a trick too, right?
Yeah, we have. The first thing I would tell you is part of the targetable management or the Chally marketing piece or whatever is a software that you literally can update all of this in one place. And so that's where I go to be able to update the information. And so I was told to be able to show that you're being active is every month put 5 professional photos that are on there. The best part about that is it pushes down user photos, which are usually never good. Not that the food's not good, it's just they don't take good pictures. And so you're able to put those up there first. And I literally had someone this last week come into the store and say they chose to came to my restaurant because of the quality of the pictures that were there compared to whatever else that they looked at. But again, always trying to have stuff on there to be able to show up and say, hey, they're open. I went to a place 2 weeks ago. They said they were open, and it was an Irish bar, and they were closed, you know? And so, it's one of those things where like that information is critical and key because that's a bad experience for someone that shows up and it's not, if it's not listed correctly.
I was with you during that, and next time we're in that town, I'm going straight to the place that was open, not to the place
Yes,
that was closed that said they were open.
exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. The next point that we want to make, similar to listings, it's about ratings. Everybody knows better ratings equals more traffic, but they have to be actionable, right? You have to improve the rating. But the one thing that I want to call out is that there are certain milestones in the rating that matter. And so we have kind of took a screenshot like a 3.8. If you are below 4, if the number starts with 3, you are literally grayed out in Google Maps when people are searching for restaurants. Now, this is fairly common with some of like the really big national chains like Taco Bell's or Subway's. A lot of times they're grayed out. They typically have lower ratings. But making sure you're at least a 4.0 is going to be a step function in the amount of visibility that you have. Now, interestingly enough, the difference between 4.0 and 4.1 is almost nothing. But that step function at 4.2 is a meaningful one because there are filters on sites that will filter out any restaurants below 4.2. Same thing at 4.5, specifically on Yelp. When you want top rated, it's going to show you everyone that's 4.5 and above. So the difference between 4.3 and 4.4, not much. Difference between 4.4 and 4.5, huge. Similarly, as you go up, 4.7, Google considers like top rated. So the difference between 4.5 and 4.6, not much. 4.6 and 4.7, huge. But also the difference between 4.7 and 4.8, really not that much. The other thing that matters a ton is the number of reviews. Google is going to surface a place that's got 1,000 reviews at 4.5 more often than they're going to surface a place that has 100 reviews at 4.7. The number of reviews makes a big difference in how often it's being surfaced and being shown as a top rated restaurant.
I would just say too, Sterling, one of the best
ahead.
things that I've used to help me with that is a software called Ovation. It literally took me from like a 4.4 to a 4.6 in a very short period of time. And the best part about that is it encourages people to leave good reviews when they have a good response. And then when it's not a good response, it's something that comes to me directly and I'm able to handle. And so the best part about that is I have a win back opportunity. And then a lot of those win back opportunities that were not great end up leaving a review later that's a higher review talking about the win back situation. So that's something that has definitely been critical for me as probably in the last few months.
Yeah, and I'll be I've heard countless success stories like that. The only, other than just you can always just pay people, or I know people that I know restaurants that say you'll give you half off a bottle of wine if you leave a 5-star review. But the only kind of quick but I guess legit way I have seen ratings increase is by using survey tools like Ovation, because what they're doing is that they're going to get you more 5 stars because they're going to reduce the amount of friction that it takes for the user to actually leave that review. But 2, they're going to decrease the 1 stars, and they're going to do that for 2 ways. 1, they're going to give you a chance to win back, just like Patrick said. But 2, what they've also found is that sometimes the customers just want to vent. And they might, if they spend the time and they type out why they had a 1-star review in the survey that only goes to you as the restaurateur, a lot of times that actually cools them down, and then they don't even go and type it in again at a 1-star because they had their opportunity to vent. And so by increasing 5 stars, lowering 1 stars, like that's been the fastest, kind of most bona fide way we've seen kind of ratings increase. So we've talked about create, right? We talked about ratings, we talked about listings, we talked about paid ads, talked about all these things that could create demand. All right, so now that we're actually creating that demand, how do we now then capture that? Now, you can capture this demand in a number of different ways. You can catch it through online ordering, but you can also capture it through catering, through events, through reservations. If you're full service or more fine dining focused. I'm going to talk about online ordering just because that is where we have the most experience. And when we talk about first party ordering, it's the most profitable channel. Like, you're not paying any of these high commissions. You're getting all the customer data. You're doing all these things. Like, it is your number one channel. Even if you go to a website like Chipotle, the first thing they do is they're trying to get you to order, right? And so like that is the big focus. And the one thing I want to talk about here are just the table stakes features. And you don't have to go to Chally for this. This isn't like a Chally plug. That's later. this is literally just, if you're looking at any online ordering provider, make sure they have these things. Make sure that it's customized. So that's your colors, your logo, your font. So that's a consistent brand experience. Make sure it has automatic upsells. This is how every third party marketplace does this. It drives bigger basket sizes, and it should have, your online ordering should have it. Make sure you're getting customer data on all orders. Make sure that you can export it. Make sure that it has reordering. This is how we help turn orders into repeat customers, which is really important. Has to be point of sale integrated. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And it should support digital wallets, which always drive higher conversion rates so that you can capture more of these orders and then convert them into profits later on. So whether it's Charlie or someone else, these 6 features are table stakes. Everyone should have this for their restaurant. Another way to capture intent is third-party marketing. Third-party marketplaces. I'm a fundamental belief that most restaurants should do both. It's an and, not an or on first party, third party. But third party, it's not creating demand for your restaurant. It is incredibly difficult to convert those into first party orders. It's possible, and we'll talk about that. Someone put a question in ahead of time that I'm going to cover in Q&A. But they're capturing demand. There's already demand on their platform for their customers, and they are going to capture that and then give it to you. And that's why you pay them such an expensive commission. These orders are not purely incremental. Some of them are, but not all of them. And a certain percentage will be cannibalizing your sales. So at the end of the day, when it comes to third-party marketplaces, there's always 3 things that we talk about. Make sure you know the true cost, not just your commission rate, but your commission rate, whether it's a Dash Pass customer or a regular one. Make sure that you know that it's not just 20% on Grubhub, it's 20% plus a 3.5% payment processing fee. Make sure you know your fully loaded cost. Make sure it's integrated. Again, Charlie's not the only one that does this. There are other groups that do, but make sure it's integrated. And then make sure that you're watching the disputes, especially DoorDash, but also Uber Eats and Grubhub have 2 to 3x the dispute rate that you see on first party ordering platforms. So make sure you know the true cost, make sure it's integrated, make sure you're watching disputes. And then lastly, it's about converting, right? You have to convert these orders into something you can execute. You do that through integration. You have to convert these orders into repeat customers. That's the key to profits for any restaurant. But you also have to make sure that you're just converting these sales into profits. You shouldn't be taking sales that you lose money on. And there's a number of different ways you can do that through the third-party marketplaces. But I know Patrick has had some experience, especially on the repeat customer side.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the repeat customer is huge. I think the industry stat that I've heard not too long ago was 70% of the people that come to your store are one-time guests. You can convert them to be able to come back. You're at least half of them or whatever, you're really looking at a 30 to 40% increase on just those people coming back and people that have already eaten with you and they know what the product is. And so what are you kind of doing to get them to come back in when they come in the first time? I can't say much about the third party because I actually don't use third party. We're only single. And so, but at the same time, because of that, I think the repeat customer is even more important.
Yeah, it's crazy to think it's a classic 80-20 rule, right? You're getting 80% of your profits from 20% of, your customer base, right? Like that is, and so making sure that you get those repeat orders is so key. And then I saw there's a question in the kind of the Q&A in the chat. Anyone can ask questions, by the way, throughout the webinar. You don't have to wait till the Q&A section. But someone just asked for the name of the tool for the Google reviews. I'm assuming they're talking about Ovation. And then I'm also writing that down in the Q&A for the person who submitted that, so you can see it written out. I'm happy to, Patrick's happy to introduce you to folks on that team as well, if that's helpful. All right, so we talked about the 3 C's. Now, again, kind of want to take 30 seconds. Let's look at the workbook and think about which parts of this framework do you feel like you have down pat, right? You feel like you have a really good idea, like we're in the awareness stage for these 3 locations, or we're totally in the attribution stage for these other 2, or in on the convert side, we're POS integrated, but we're not we're not really tracking for like repeat customer use, and we're not using particular tools. Just everyone take 30 seconds and kind of think about throughout that framework, like which pieces of that, like how well you think you're doing. All right. Now we talk about Chally. For a lot of you, you're already using parts of our product, right? Patrick's using the digital marketing products. I know there's some folks that are using our third-party marketplace integration. There's some folks that are using our first-party ordering, but we'll kind of go through each one of those. Where for those of you who don't know, we're up to 17,000 restaurants in the US that use Chally. So thank everybody on this call for helping us get there. Helping restaurants is literally why Justin and I started this in the first place. We're doing a lot more now, and I'm excited to kind of talk to you about those different things. So at a super high level, on the create side, on the digital marketing tools, we will manage Google and Meta ads, handle organic social posts, so think Facebook and Instagram. We'll manage reviews and ratings from a reporting and a response perspective. And we'll do listings management to make sure all the hours and all those things are updated all in one tool. On the capture side, we'll do first-party online ordering through Chally Online Ordering. We obviously do our third-party marketplace ordering as well. And then on the conversion side, on converting, point-of-sale integrations has always been, kind of the foundation of what we've built. We also have a tool called Smart Pricing. It's basically dynamic pricing for your third-party marketplaces. So if we know 6 p.m. on a Friday, it's going to rain, we are going to increase your delivery prices by 10 or 20%. And one of the reasons that this is really valuable, and we'll show a case study on it in a couple of slides, is that DoorDash and Uber are starting to punish restaurants who inflate their prices. But they don't have a great way of doing it. So they kind of have like these scrapers, and they try to see if drivers will report on it. But it's hard for them to do that. By using smart pricing and only increasing the prices when you're busy, what it does is it decreases the amount of time that your prices are inflated, which then makes it harder for DoorDash to see that you're actually inflating them at all, which means you're actually going to get more orders and be surfaced on there more while actually making sure that they're all profitable. And then we also have email marketing. Email marketing for us, this is not demand creation, right? Email marketing is going at existing customers and trying to get repeat orders. This is what we do to try to convert orders into repeat customers. And that is also a tool that we have today. So all of these tools are offered by Chally today. So I want to talk about our demand creation. So I'll turn it over to Patrick. But before I do that, because this is for Patrick's restaurant, I got to switch hats because I got the Righteous Q swag ready for it. So I'll turn it over to you, Patrick.
It's awesome. Yeah, again, so we use the digital marketing piece. We're doing Google Ads. I'm doing weekly email letters. What else are we doing? They're managing my social for me. And again, when I started, it was explained to me that like the Google Ads for awareness, the email marketing and things like that are really the baseline of what you want to be able to do. And it's been great for me. So I started in February. We started doing those baseline type of things, and really since February until probably the end of June, I mean, we're up 40%. Now, again, I know other factors go into that, but I haven't changed anything else that I've done except for adding the marketing piece. And so that's why I feel like I got to give the credit, that way. But I think it's been critical in the growth of my business. It's been critical to be able to get in front of new people with the Google ads and things like that. The number one thing that I feel like people do, or at least I do, is especially if I'm traveling, hey, barbecue near me. And, I want to be able to show up in that. And so they've done a good job of doing the awareness campaign to where, that's still obviously the top option or what people are searching for, but more and more you're seeing righteous queue climb up that ladder. And I think in one of the things that I looked at with Sterling not too long ago, I was showing up like third or fourth in that. And so, even though people are searching for barbecue near me, if Righteous Q shows up, I think a name is critical there too. And so they're able to say, oh, this name pops up, so they've got to be the place to be able to go. And so, yeah, I think they've done an amazing job with helping me understand marketing better, because I don't mind explaining like I suck at marketing. I'm not artsy fartsy, that is not me. And so, it was a critical thing for me to be able to do, to say, hey, I'm not good at this. And so let's let somebody else do it that knows what they're doing, that has strategy behind what it is. I know beforehand, like I just had someone that was taking pictures and randomly putting stuff up on social media. And again, one of the things I learned was social media is a retention. It's not an acquisition piece really whatsoever. And so, yeah, I've learned a ton. Charlie has taught me a lot as well in the process. And so, I think I can be up 40%, and we can continue to do that. Like that's the whole goal in all this, right?
Yeah, and Patrick had the advantage, and Patrick has great food and great pictures. And so for us just to kind of take something he was already doing, was there's some low hanging fruit to get those sales. But appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Next one that we have is on Smoke and Oak. Someone who's using both our Chally online ordering as well as our third party marketplace tools, just allowing them to kind of streamline everything. All the orders go into one point of sale, right? So it doesn't matter whether they order from DoorDash or from Grubhub or direct. Everything's integrated. Everything's got the same menu. Everything in one place allows them to really operate, very smoothly. By getting them on Chally online ordering as well, we started to expose more of that customer data. One of those table stakes features that we talked about earlier on the other slides. We also have another restaurant called Two Eggs. They were using smart pricing, right? So this is dynamic pricing. We increased their basket size by a little over 7%. In a single location, they're going to get just about $61,000 in incremental profit this year. Not sales, profit. Because when you're increasing prices, right, it goes basically straight to the bottom line. And they didn't have to do anything. They paid us basically $100 a month. And we checked a box and we let the software go to work, and they were able to bring in that much money straight to their bottom line, for them to invest in doing another store, to make a boat payment for the owner, or whatever it is. We were able to help them kind of generate that profit. So when we talk about converting orders into profit, this is kind of the ideal state that we want to get to. I want to talk about point of sale integration, just because, and this isn't just for online ordering. Like, this is for literally any tech that you're looking at. Not all integrations are created equal. There are so many different limitations. There are so many different ways to do it. There are so many different, well, we integrate this, but we don't integrate that. And because every point of sale is different, because every API is different, because it takes different amounts of dev work, you might assume that you can ask, hey, are you integrated with Spot On, my point of sale? All right. And they just say yes, but you can't stop there. You have to go the extra one and make sure that whatever tech vendor you're talking to is going to integrate the specific points you need. Make sure, if it's online ordering, that nested mods are supported. A lot of times they're not. Make sure that multiple payment types are supported. Sometimes it's not. How quickly does the integration work? Is it daily? Is it by the minute? Is it delayed by 15 minutes? Is it on the hour? Because what you'll find is that if you ask 3 tech companies these different questions, you'll get 3 different sets of answers. And you may think because 7shifts has this particular feature with Square point of sale, that means another scheduling company also has that same feature with Square, but they might not. And this actually happens all the time. So not all point of sale integrations, are created equal. So make sure that you're going kind of the next step anytime you're looking at a tech vendor, whether it's Chally or anybody else. The last point that we have is talking about return on time, especially with operators less than 3 or 5 locations. While you may want to look at return on investment and think about like the financial impact on some of these tech platforms, your time is actually much more important than that. Trying to focus on automating those tasks that you don't have to, or delegating them, but having tech help, report on it so that you can check in on it. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. A restaurateur actually told me this. He basically he said that chefs are incredibly creative minds, and they could probably write a symphony. It would take them some time, but they could figure it out. That doesn't mean that they should. And so, trying to make sure that you're always focusing on high impact projects, I think, is so key. So whether it be responding to reviews, whether it be updating, your Google page, or manually keying in, orders, whatever the case may be, you and your staff, you should be looking for places where you get the highest return on time. Because what you'll find is that as you have more time and you get to focus that on higher impact things like spending time with your customers or, setting yourself up for growth, that's when we've seen a lot of restaurants break past that 3 to 5 location wall. I always like to call it the Cabo test. As a restaurant owner, if you can go to Cabo for a week or two, when you come back, will your restaurant still be doing okay? And we find a lot of groups get stuck around 3, 4, 5 locations because the owner, because they can, is keeping a lot of stuff up and going. And I think is our last activity for the webinar, but just want to take 30 seconds to think about some of the manual tasks. So we've got these down in the workbook. If you just take a quick look and try to think how many minutes, how many hours, you or your staff are spending on some of these tasks and whether it might be worth it to automate some of those. Anything to add on the return on time, Patrick?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you're saying about the chef. Like, if I'm not good at it, it's going to take me so much longer to figure out. I probably could have sat down and figured out the marketing thing, but it's not just doing it, it's finding the information and then the education to be able to do it. And for me, when I'm running 15 to 20 caterings a week, that's not high on my to-do list, type of thing. And so, how much, and again, it's got to keep you profitable. I don't think you make that decision that's going to not make you profitable. But at the same time, could you make that investment with the ability to know that, hey, this is going to save my time. I get to focus on what really matters in the store, and let somebody else take care of these things that do matter. But again, I still feel like as an owner, when even with thinking about marketing, I still have to have a much bigger view over the business than just thinking about marketing.
No, 100%. I mean, and this isn't just for restaurants either. I mean, this is for me. Like even like running a tech company, like I think about, return on time and how I'm spending it and different things that me and my team that we can automate. Cause, for me, like I try to prioritize time with customers above everything. Right? I talk to at least one restaurant operator a day, whether they're a current customer or a prospect. And that just keeps me close. And that's how I like to spend my time because that keeps me close to the product, keeps me close to the problems, and it helps us build a better business. But sometimes I think about I can do a lot of reporting, but I could have spent, instead of spending that hour on spinning up some reports, I could have spent that hour with customers. I think in the long term, that's a better payback for me.
I agree with that.
All right. And with that, we'll take the last kind of 12, 15 minutes here for Q&A. I see a couple in the Q&A section. Anyone can throw anything in the chat or throw it in the questions and we'll take a look. I've got a few here that we'll run through. The first one here, how can you track ad spend to see if it's successfully translating into sales? I've done it in the past and it's just hard to justify the cost sometimes. Yeah. And I think, so first of all, how can you track ad spend? With our platform, you can do that because if you use Chally online ordering and you use us for digital marketing, we can actually follow the entire customer journey. So we can see them all the way from clicking the link to starting the session. They can add, if they add an item to a cart, if they check out, and then we can tie it back to that specific ad. So that's something that we can do. It is a newer product for us. It was kind of one of the key things we wanted to do. When Charlie acquired Targetable back last December, is being able to kind of show that full customer journey. So we're building some more reporting around that and those. But as of today, we just started doing that with Google Ads, and I think Meta Ads either just started working this week or we're going live next week with our first customer. So we can do that. But to the other point of here, I've done it in the past and it's hard to justify the cost. Yeah. And it's because I believe that like 80% of SMB restaurants are not ready for that full ad attribution. So like when we think about, I'm going to fly through these real quick. You need to add, like, until your branded keyword results look like this, you're not going to get a good return on ad spend. Like that's just how it works. Attribution in these paid ads, when you're actually trying to generate orders, like you need to have the brand awareness first, because once you have the brand awareness, the Google does more rewarding of you because there's more intent. Instead of trying to capture someone who's looking for a brunch or your restaurant, like you're just capturing a hungry customer. But you can't capture that hungry customer until people actually know who you are. And so when we think about ads, like to get this data, so like I said, we're big proponents of buying the branded keyword. It's not a big spend. I mean, we're talking $3 to $5 a day. That's really all, because we're not really doing it to drive orders. We're doing it to learn and figure out all this data so that we can start acquiring through acquisition more of those words. When Patrick first started, his looked more like this. Now he looks like this. We don't do paid ads to drive orders for full like return on ad spend for Patrick yet. But you'll hear what he said. By running those awareness campaigns and building that, he still saw an increase in sales. But we can't attribute it directly to the ad. You can't do the direct attribution unless that's the whole point of the ad. And the purpose of attribution ads is to do that. The purpose of awareness ads is just to get your awareness to increase and improve. So hopefully that answers the question there.
And I will say
ahead.
too, y'all's marketing people are great. Like we ran an ad for a little bit for or whatever, and they're really quick to say, hey, this isn't working. Like, let's stop spending the money on this instead of letting it run. And so I think they're seeing some data and understand some of that obviously better than I do. But at the same time, like I think that's the relationship with Charlie Marketing. Like they want the best for you. And so, yes, it is, tough to justify that cost sometimes, but when you have somebody that's doing that for you and saying, hey, let's not do this anymore because it's not working, I think I know it helped me to be able to say, okay, you're right, let's not spend that money.
Yeah. And look, we're not perfect. Everything is going to work perfectly, but we're not paid on how much you spend on ads. One of the really big differences between using us for digital marketing and an agency, we're not incentivized to get you to spend more on ads. And so it kind of aligns us a little bit better. And our theory, our whole theory there is that like ads are for learning. They're not necessarily for driving orders, and you don't need to pay a ton of money to learn. I think more of the point there. It's a great question. Appreciate whoever asked that. We have another question here. If we don't use Chally for our third-party integration, do you have programs where we can just use Chally for digital marketing? That's an easy one. Yes. That's where Patrick is right now. He's not on third-party marketplaces. He only uses us for digital marketing, and hopefully he'll use this for first-party ordering soon. We got a little work to do on our side for that one. Let's see. Do you also help with DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats reviews? Not today, but we will soon. Soon being we're probably 6 months out from doing that. So not today, but we'll soon. Let's see. What are the tactics for moving third-party customers to first-party? All right, I love this question. I've been getting this question for literally like 10 years. And I have not seen, I haven't seen anything that has successfully moved a large percentage of customers from a third party to first party. But I have seen some tactics that work well, moving a large percentage of the dollars from third party to first party. So what I mean by that is if you go back to kind of what Patrick was saying is that like, 70% of your customers are only ever going to order from you once. Well, you can apply that same logic to your DoorDash orders. 70% of the people that are ordering through DoorDash are only ever ordering through you once. So converting them into first party doesn't really move the needle. But if you can get the person that's ordering from your store once a week through DoorDash to convert, that way you're actually moving a larger percentage of the dollars over. So it's a highly targeted approach to try to convert third-party sales over to first party. We have seen bag drops work fairly well. So you have a sticker or a card or something that goes in the bag. You hand it to the DoorDash driver. DoorDash driver hands it to the customer. Customer opens the bag and it says 20% off next time if you order direct. Right. And then they order directly from you. And as long as they have a good experience, it's integrated. And it has, digital wallets, those table stakes features that we talked about. If they like your food and are going to repeat, now you have their data. You can target them. You can email them. You can do all of those things, and you can try to get them to be a repeat user. So we've seen that work fairly well. Again, not a large percentage of customers, but we've seen it do a large percentage of dollars. If you move this is a little more complicated, but if you tell DoorDash that you are going to go on what's called self-delivery, so basically you're telling DoorDash, hey, you don't have to worry about delivering this food. I'm going to take care of it. I have my own drivers. They'll lower your commission rate because they don't have to pay for their driver. But now you have to figure out how you're going to get this order to the customer. And you may not have drivers, which is actually okay. Is then you can use tools that actually dispatch and are connected to those fleets. So it could be DoorDash Drive, which is specifically their driver product. It could be Uber Connect. It could be a local one. If you're in New York, it could be Relay. And so the reason that helps you convert orders is because now you're getting customer data. Because you have to get the customer data to be able to fulfill the delivery. You got to get their address. And so now that data should be in either in your point of sale or your third-party integrator. You should be able to export that, and now you can target that customer, find the repeat customers, and then try to move them over to first party. It's a bit more complicated. There's a group in Chicago. It's a barbecue place. I believe it's called Mighty Quinn's. Not only were they able to get first party conversions, but they also saved like $200,000 on commissions because the amount their commission was lowered was way more than what it cost, like the $7 to actually fulfill the delivery. Long, more complicated. If you're particularly interested in that, or if that was your question, like I'm happy to hop on a call and kind of walk through it with you just one-on-one with more detail. All right, last question that I have from Q&A. How does the menu and prices work together? I'm not exactly sure what this question is asking. I know that in terms of our integration with point of sale companies, we spend a lot of time being able to pull that menu from the point of sale. And that means when we're doing that, we're also pulling the prices. And then we are taking those prices and pushing them to the third-party marketplaces. So the menu and the prices all are coming from the point of sale, and that's what we're using on the third parties. So I hope that answers the question. Again, if this was your question and I totally just whiffed on it, definitely like let me know. I'm happy to hop on and chat more about it.
So Sterling, does that mean I only have to update the pricing one time in the point of sale?
That's correct.
Okay.
So if you update a menu item in your point of sale, we'll actually see that happen. Depending on your point of sale, it can take up to 5 minutes. A lot of them are fairly instantaneous. And then we will go ahead and update that on the third party marketplaces. And since I know your point of sale is spot on, and I know that spot on just released an update literally today, that we are getting that data way faster than we were yesterday. So our spot on integration just got a lot faster too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. All right. Well, I wanted to thank everybody again for hopping on. Again, thank you for being a Chally customer. Anything that you all need, I know some of the people on this have already had calls with me or talked to me. I love talking to customers. I love talking to customers. It is my favorite thing to do. Whether you're angry, whether you're happy, whether you just want to learn or have questions, I love talking to customers. So feel free to reach out to me directly. Thank you, Patrick, for hopping on the webinar, sharing your experiences and your thoughts on it. Thanks for the sweet hat that you gave me a few weeks back. And I hope to talk to everybody. And I hope that this was a good use of an hour and helpful for everybody to learn more about how to get more orders and more about the Chally product set. Thanks, everybody.